User Guide version 4, video 6, signals. So what we'll just do, we'll follow, when you go to the tab, you'll have a hyperlink. If you just hover your mouse over and you've got a URL, so just click that. They'll take us to the QUASIDB.com. And so I'll read it out. First of all, we need to determine whether a currency basket is a sentimental buy or sell. If the crowd are long, then it's a sell. If they're short, it's a buy. Why do we do the opposite of the crowd? Because most of them are counter trend and consistently lose money. They're over leveraged, emotional, like a myriad reasons why they lose money. So if you look at the bubbles, anything up here is a sell, anything down there is a buy. And then we can draw our horizontal axis for time. So this is static, and this is the dynamic across time. Now, if the crowd are long and add them to long, which would be here, it's a sell. If the crowd are short and add them to their short bets, it's a buy. So here, this is why this is buy, this is why this is sell. So here's an example of pound yen as a dynamic sell. So the pound weakened and the yen strengthened, so that would be a pound yen short. Okay, so they were long pound and they added, they were short yen and they added. So that's a strong bias versus a strong bias. Okay, in this example we saw the yen move away from the vertical to become a dynamic buy, and the pound moved away from the vertical to become a dynamic sell. The herd was short yen and long pound, but they added to their position in sentiment over time. Now the clever part, we are using the currency baskets against one another. We are not looking at the pound yen symbol as 99.99% of the traders are doing. Rather, we look at the pound basket strength versus the yen basket strength. So this isn't necessarily the pound yen currency pair, it's the pound basket versus the yen basket. Right, so you see how it's massively more powerful than just looking at the pound yen. You're looking at whether or not the pound currency is a buy or sell, and you're looking at the yen currency basket, whether or not it's a buy or sell. Okay, so that's the very, very clever part. This gives us an incredibly powerful edge over our competition. We allow the bubbles to continue to diverge. If they do, the signal is stronger, so we hold on to our winners. If they converge, they come closer together, the signal is invalidated. So if the yen bubble continues this way, and the pound bubble continues this way, then that signal is going to get stronger over time. The pound's going to weaken, the yen's going to strengthen. So that's what that means. And you'll get notifications to say pound yen buy or euro USD sell. And the stop loss I would recommend is that you do have one in place. It's absolutely key. I will try and always try and enforce risk management. You do 100% need to have a physical stop loss. Okay, it can be wide. Preferably the narrower the better, because your risk to reward will be greater. But you do definitely 100% want to have a stop loss, and the reason for it is that price can continue, and if you let it run, then it do destruction. So essentially, the daily resistance free is a hard stop, or the daily support free is a hard stop. This is like the worst possible, furthest you'd want your stops is the DR3 or DS3, because that's quite wide, to be honest with you. However, we do have a thing called a soft stop, and what the soft stop is, it's the bubble convergence. So this is the validation of the signal when the pound comes across and the yen comes across. But if there's a reversal on either one, then the bubbles will get closer together. When they get closer together, then we'll get a no message to say to close. So while we do have a hard stop in place, which is I absolutely must recommend that you do, we do have a soft stop, and a soft stop is to tell us to exit. So when we see a reversal in the bubbles, we'll get a no message, an increasement over the time, the distance over time. That's a validation of the signal. A convergence is a invalidation. So divergence is yes, and convergence is no. So you see a reversal, then we can potentially have an exit in the Telegram message. It will say no. and that's what that soft stop means. So it's just to say the bubbles have converged and the signal is no longer valid. So what we want for our perspective, from a signal perspective, is we don't want to see reversals in the bubbles. We want them to add to the bias. We don't want to cut their losses. We want them to add to their losses, and by doing so, it creates a greater signal for us. Okay, so if they do cut and reverse, then our signals will suffer as a consequence. We need them to be typically retail and to add to losers, and then if they do, then that's awesome. And so if they converge, they come closer together, the signal is invalidated, and so that's the no message. This is the soft stop. This is the soft stop, sorry, and this is your hard stop, which would be daily R3 or daily support 3. So you've got two forms of stop losses, basically, and we do get lots of no messages, so you need to be sort of like ready for them to appear. You can check your bubbles to give you a heads up as well, to see if the bubbles are reversing. And so that's that. So I had quite a lot of views. So hopefully that makes sense, the bubble logic. So that hopefully that's clear. If they're long, it's a sell. If they're short, it's a buy. And it's the add-in to that bias, then that's how we get the stronger signal. And that's how we actually get the pound yen signal, or any currency pair, by examining the basket versus basket. And so that's how the signals work. So they'll always be successful as long as the retail guys add to their losses and they let their losers run. If they do that, which is normally quite common, then we'll do well. If they start all of a sudden having excellent risk management, then our signals are going to suffer. So we need them to have terrible risk management, which they have been doing, then we should be okay. So that's how the signals work, and hopefully that's quite clear. And it's basket versus basket, and we have two stops. We've got a hard stop and a soft stop. Okay, and you always have to have a hard stop in place, and that's that. So I'll wrap up now, and I'll get on to the next video.